So here's what we've got to work on today. This is a 2014 Yamaha petrol golf cart. Petrol or gas, you guys in the States call them. But a 14 in a petrol. And the symptoms are, it's literally just not starting. Drove down the 4th fairway, hit the shot, went to drive off, and nothing. Absolutely nothing. So first thing I always test with petrol golf carts is the battery condition under load. So get your multimeter, put it on volts, red terminal to red, black to black, you know the drill, and then literally push the accelerator. Oh, one thing first, put it in service mode. Yamaha service mode is between forward and reverse. That's obviously reverse, that's forward, it's right in the middle there. So now it'll wind the cart over without actually trying to drive off on you. And there's basically no voltage change because nothing is getting sent to the starter motor. You can hear the fuel pump, and that's the voltage drop, but essentially nothing getting to the starter. So we're going to start checking cables and terminals going to the starter motor. So I'm just going to take my positive on my red cable, put him on that guy there. You can see that's a red cable, and then depress obviously the accelerator, see if that changes. So no voltage coming from that, and there'll be one more at the back. That'll be the ground. That's a positive in, and then we should have an activation cable at the rear. So this, remove that cover. Okay, yeah, well there's the issue already. We don't have to worry about testing voltage. It's not going to get any voltage because that is literally just vibrated off. That's not uncommon for them to snap off too. That's loose. That's probably why that's had enough room to vibrate. So we're just going to re-terminal that guy, put him back on, and go from there. And you can see in the end of that, it's literally just vibrated to the point where it's snapped off. I'll get a new terminal, clean that guy up and put him back on. Just to make things easier, I'm actually going to remove the cable completely, just from the top of the solenoid here. Alright, so I've just crimped another terminal on there. And just while I'm putting this back on, we might actually go through, so what if I didn't find that? What would you test next if you've got a cart not starting? I'll just chuck this guy on and we'll keep going with diagnosis, in case that's not what you find and your cart isn't starting. Okay, so I'm now going to grab that cable and bring it through here. So that's the cable, I've reattached it to the solenoid, and we're going to assume we didn't find that, but your cart's still not starting. So if I press the accelerator now, can you see that again? There, how about there? So if I press the accelerator now, that should send power to this cable to try and wind the starter over. And there it goes. So that's what you'll be checking, is the solenoid working? In other words, we've got no voltage there, 0. When I press the accelerator, now we've got voltage, so it's trying to activate the starter motor. That would tell you, if your cart's not starting, yes, the solenoid's fine, although sometimes they're clicking. It doesn't necessarily mean they're transferring power. But then we'd go, well, if that's connected, that's fine, the solenoid's fine. Is it the starter motor? In this case, it's not, but in theory, if you didn't find something as simple as that, you'd now be able to progress to your starter motor. And that's the little solenoid there. So you've got heavy power from the battery coming in this side, 2 little activation terminals there, and that's the power leaving, heading down to our starter. I'll just bolt that guy back on. Okay, cable's back on. So key on. I'm going to test the starter. I always like to test, I'm going to test the battery. I always like to test the batteries on petrols, because sometimes they will still start the cart even if the battery's dying and it's going as low as 8 and 9 volts. So we'll just see how healthy the battery is. It's pretty good. It only dipped to 11.5 from what I saw there. Rightio. Okay, so I didn't expect that to be quite so simple finding that cable. I was hoping we were going to go through diagnosing a starter motor, but I'll keep going a little further anyway. Let's assume you've tested your solenoid, your starter solenoid, by putting your multimeter on the cable that we found. We've now connected it back to our starter. Let's assume you're turning the key on, pressing the pedal, which should be sending power to your starter, and it's still not turning. The first thing to diagnose I would do, get a rubber mallet, give it a couple of taps, maybe a couple more. The theory being, the carbon brushes sometimes in those motors can build up carbon dust, a significant amount of carbon dust. Sometimes they stick and they don't slide onto the armature. Giving it a tap might jar them loose. If, for instance, now you turned the key, pressed the pedal, and it started to start, or it wanted to wind over, then it is 100% remove the starter, clean the brushes out, or replace the brushes as needed. Anyway, hope that helps. Stuck starter motor brushes in a cart around this age. This is now a 10-year-old cart. I wouldn't say it's common, but it's probably getting to the age where it does need to be serviced and blown out. So as I say, that is only a temporary diagnosis sort of a method. Give it a tap. If it shakes the brushes to start activating, you can be sure that's exactly what's going on. The other thing, if that doesn't work, it still doesn't say it's not that. It would still be pull the starter motor and maybe go down that path. So that one's up and running again. I do hope that helps. Follow along and fix it yourself.